morning, Commissioner Ed Rothstein. It's Thursday, September 14th. It's 9:15. We have our open session, then we will go into closed after that for land acquisition. Before we get started, as always, let's take a moment for a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's start. Commissioner Garin.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, good morning, Carroll County. Monday was September 11th. As I normally do, I attend Mount Airy's September 11th remembrance at the Pine Grove Chapel, which is a beautiful chapel on Main Street there in Mount Airy. That was built in 1846. It was a wonderful evening. I'm a proud resident of Mount Airy, and I want to thank the Mayor Hushauer, who himself is a retired naval aviator, and the town council and the town staff. It was a wonderful event. A lot of civic groups, a lot of veterans groups, many of which I know. The Marine Corps League, Civil Air Patrol was there. My friend Ted Nettles with the Maryland Patriot Riders, as usual, is always everywhere and very present. The Boy Scouts, my American Legion Post 191 commander, Ted Morris, the VFW commander, Matt Harris, and most importantly, the family and the friends of two of Mount Airy's fallen on September 11th. Chief Warrant Officer William Ruth, a Vietnam veteran, lost his life in the Pentagon, and Naval Lieutenant Commander Ronald Valk lost his life as well. His widow was there in attendance with his family. They had a daughter after he perished. But the point of September 11th is to remember. It was a wonderful event. I would encourage everybody to attend a 9/11 event every opportunity they get, because it's so much more than just talking about the events of September 11th. It's an opportunity to come together with people that care, that people that still grieve, and that people who have really dedicated so much time and effort to what I called remaining those silent centuries for the brothers and sisters that were lost on September 11th, and then after that, avenging their deaths. So again, my many thanks to the men and women of Mount Airy. It was a fantastic event. I've never been more proud to be a resident of Mount Airy, and thank you all for those that attended and made it such a special evening. Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you. I'll just follow up in reference to the 9/11 event, the memorial service that was at the Public Safety Training Center on the 11th. Myself, Commissioner Rothstein, Commissioner Vigliotti, and Commissioner Kyler in attendance of that. To anyone that's never attended or been out to the Public Safety Training Center, I would say you should take a moment to visit there outside for one very specific reason. There is a artifact, which is a portion of what occurred on 9/11 that I'll oddly use the word, I guess, fortunate to have. We have a real piece of history there. It's very poignant to look at that and realize that piece of metal is part of one of the buildings that occurred in New York. That morning I was talking to our Director of Public Safety and Emergency Management, Valerie Hawkins, before the memorial service got underway, and I thought her comments during were very poignant, and we were talking about how for many of us it seems like it's only been a day or so away. On the other end, for some, it seems like it's been a world away, and we're at a point now where there's a generation now that didn't even experience this firsthand. And at times, history seems to get away from us, whether it be this tragic situation and an attack or any other event in history. And I would just highly recommend to anyone to really kind of dial down and take a look at what actually occurred. You know, if you weren't alive at that time, you don't recall where you were that day. I know all of us can poignantly think of what we were doing that morning, family, friends, relatives, those we know that passed. But I would just definitely suggest for anyone that was not around during that experience and that horrible attack that day to try to take a little time and look a little deeper into what occurred that day and to understand a little more of our history. But a very well attended memorial, and was happy to be there with my colleagues to show respect and observance for those that lost their lives that day. Last week, some of you may have noticed in the city of Westminster there are now some digital signage put up regarding conserving water. It says, "Help conserve water, every drop counts." Very, very true statement. The city has also put out hanging tags throughout Westminster, and they're asking that people conserve water. As we all know, it's been a difficult year water-wise, and that we need to be diligent and careful as to how we're maintaining and utilizing water in the community. So please, if you can, don't water your yards. Try to reuse water. If you've got rain barrels, fantastic, definitely something to have. But just to be aware that it's a challenging time for the county as a whole, but definitely for Westminster, which Westminster's had some water issues going back decades, but now is definitely a time to be as aware as you can be on that topic. Last Thursday evening, I was at Covalent Spirits, which hosted the Historical Society's History Shaken and Stirred event. It was a good turnout. It was a great opportunity to interact with a good chunk of the public, and a lot of good guest speakers. We had people including Steve Bowersox, Sam Riley, Ryan Melhorn, and Gail Rupp. I do believe there's going to be a number of other events like this in the future. Definitely that evening was a lot of unknown stories of Carroll County history, so if you have the opportunity, keep an eye out and do turn into one of their upcoming events. And then on Saturday, I was in attendance at the grand opening of the Westminster Automotive Tire Pros, which is located right outside of Westminster City proper. They held a car show in celebration of their opening with their neighbors across the way, the Carroll County Veterans Independence Project, and the proceeds raised at that car show is going to assist veterans in our county. And just want to thank Mike Cooper and his staff at Westminster Automotive Tire Pros for not only being a new business in Carroll County, but also their support and appreciation and recognition of our veterans. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Collar?
Can I ask that skip me and let
Commissioner
Commissioner
Vigliotti?
Vigliotti go first? I think he's going to hit some of the subjects I'm going to hit, and if he says it better, then I don't even need to say anything.
Well, in that case, you could take a coffee break if you'd like. Commissioner Vigliotti.
Thank you, Commissioner Rossi, and thank you,
I
Commissioner
feel like this
Kyler.
was, I'd like to take my 2 minutes and give it to the kind gentleman to my left, or whatever it
Yeah,
may say.
as long as I still get mine back.
You'll get yours
Serving
back.
his time.
Reserving your time. There we go. Go ahead.
So thank you very much. So Monday morning, along with my fellow commissioners, I had the honor of joining them participating in the annual September 11th memorial ceremony at the Carroll County Public Safety Training Center to lay a wreath in memory of those who lost their lives on that day 22 years ago, along with first responders and officials from in and beyond the county. The ceremony was very well hosted by CCVSA President Susan Mott, and some of the speakers included Commissioner Ed Rothstein, Director of the Department of Public Safety, Valerie Hawkins, and Carroll County Chief and Director of the Department of Fire and Emergency Services, Michael Robinson, all of who spoke very well and spoke to the heart of the matter of the day. Additionally, well-known singer, friend, and Carroll County resident Devin Nichols performed a beautiful rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. And Commissioner Rothstein specifically noted how we as a nation grow stronger in the face of tragedy. And almost as if there was some God-felt sense to the occasion, what began as a somber, misted morning became a sunny September day. And I think it's right that our county remembers this day because we recognize that the amount of time between us and that day makes what happened no less important, and because the terrorist threats we faced then still do exist today. I also wanted to take a moment to thank the students of Northwest Middle School in Tawnytown, where the victims of September 11th were honored with the placement of American flags in this beautiful installation that you see in these pictures. The students should be commended for their incredible efforts and for having the wisdom of preserving the memory of that day. And I do know that other schools, businesses, groups, and organizations in our county have also honored the solemnity of the day, and that's certainly a credit to the county. Yesterday, I had the privilege of attending the Seniors on the Go Expo at the Ag Center here in Westminster, which was hosted by Celine Steckel and all the wonderful people in Citizen Services. I was very well attended, and some of my commissioners have gone into detail about yesterday, so I don't have to go too much into that. But it was awesome to meet with so many of our senior citizens to see what opportunities and assistance there is for them in this county, and to see how our county values them. I'm going to take a very quick moment here to segue into a topic that's related to this, because I think it is important and needs to be talked about. I want to say a quick word about the idea of aging itself. I know in the news recently there's been a lot about age, and in the current situation, the holding of office. There's been a call for age limits or age maximums for things like office holding. I want to express publicly that I'm utterly against imposing an age maximum on anyone for any reason. You know, age is a number, is something that nobody can help, and indeed someone's age, whether you're 50 or 75 or 100, it has nothing to do with capability or capacity. It doesn't matter how old someone is, it matters how effectively they can do their job. And that applies to any part of our human construction that we can't help. There's a reason why we don't discriminate based on things like race or sex or other physical aspects. Additionally, there's also the potential for tremendous wisdom and experience that does come with age. There's the American reality that we as Americans believe that all human beings are handcrafted by God and that all human beings have value. And there's a sense of value itself and of integrity about who we are that comes along with having respect for the elderly. And I also want to remind anybody who's calling for age maximums for anything that one day you too will be that age. You know, youth is not eternal, but living justly, including the rejection of bigotry for something like advanced age, secures a perpetual transmission of love and respect for and through generations, and again goes to the heart of who we are as Americans. You know, all of us have to bear in mind consistently that we are not the last generation that will ever matter or exist. And as philosopher Edmund Burke once noted, society is a kind of contract between the living, the dead, and those yet to be born, that we inherit things from our parents and tend to them, take care of them, and try to preserve the best of them and improve on them where needed so that we can pass them along to our children. At no point does being elderly mean you are not a vital part of society. In fact, because of the nature of our existence, of the passage of an inherited society through generations, the wisdom and experience that comes with age matter that much more. And if we start extending age maximums for impassioned causes, where else do we extend them? Do we start preventing certain medical services to senior citizens just because of their age? And just because you're old doesn't mean that you don't matter. Now, after the Seniors on the Go Expo, I was able to run next door to the Farm Museum for a meeting of the advisory board, which is always enjoyable. Everyone, of course, is getting ready for Wine Fest this coming weekend and looking ahead to events over the holidays. There are a lot of exciting events coming up, and I'll share more details about those as we get closer, but you can always keep up with events well in advance at carrollcountyfarmmuseum.org. Now, one of the things that I've been asked about, and I'll take a couple minutes to go over this as well, last night was the monthly Board of Education meeting, and public comment was understandably focused on the book review process. Now, while we as commissioners do not direct or control school policy, we help to fund schools using taxpayer money. And as I've stated here quite clearly in the past, and as I'll reiterate again because I've been asked about it, I do still completely support the decision of Superintendent McCabe and the Board of Education to have titles of concern reviewed. There have been some who've declared this to be fascism or censorship, and as I've said before, this is not fascism, for a fascistic government or entity would never take into account the concerns of any of its individual citizens. What we see here is the opposite, that the superintendent and the school board are taking into account the concerns of citizens, specifically the parents of students who attend the public schools which they administer. Now, in this discussion, freedom and liberty are often used interchangeably, and while they are in many ways similar, they really are distinct. There are natural rights which are protected under law, which ensure that particular freedoms become ordered liberty, effectively that our freedoms do not impinge upon each other. Now, what is available in school libraries has been conflated by way of censorship with what is available beyond school libraries. Any book that may ultimately be removed from school libraries is not censorship, for the decisions reached in the public school system do not mean that those books will be removed from public libraries, online, in stores, or otherwise be unavailable to anybody who may be interested in them outside of the schools. It's also got to be remembered that a child is a parent's primary loving responsibility. During the day at school, when a student is beyond the loving care of parents, it becomes the duty of those charged with administering and teaching at schools to do their best to provide a safe, sound learning environment for them. What is essential here is that a trust exists between parents and the school system, in which the well-being and education of the children of those parents is central and essential. What one must also remember beyond anything else is that those students do not belong to schools or professionals, but to their parents. And if parents have concerns about what their children may experience at school, they have every right to say something about it, whether it's bullying, drugs, the curriculum, or the contents of books. And to be precise, in a republic dependent upon informed consent from participating citizens, any citizen has the right to speak on any issue or topic he or she chooses, or to organize in an association to do so. And I've listened to all of the public comment that's gone on about this, and I've heard no one calling for an end to freedom of speech or a dismantling of the First Amendment or the burning of books. Under the American system of ordered liberty, parents must decide for themselves what they are and are not comfortable with their children reading, watching, viewing, or following. Now, the accessibility of such materials is a matter left for parents, not for school libraries. And as I've mentioned previously as well, Atticus Finch pursuing the truth in a courtroom is a world removed from graphic sexual descriptions in a contemporary novel in the titles that are of issue here. But consider the argument carried through to its natural conclusion. If the removal of any book from any school library is to be considered an act of censorship, then the choice not to carry a title for any reason in the first place is also to be considered an act of censorship, for this necessarily entails limiting access to the title. But we know that there are simple reasons for this, such as space constraints. No library, no bookstore can ever carry every single title that has ever existed in the history of the world. At present, it's estimated that up to 1 million books are published every year. 1 million books are published every year, and no fewer than 129 million known titles have been published in history. The reality is that there is some form of judgment or discernment being exercised both for what is and is not included in a school library. That doesn't make it censorship. It makes it common sense. And that the superintendent and the school board are pursuing a commonsensical path for evaluating titles of concern is a testament to their receptiveness and their professionalism. And the very last thing I'll get to here, and I apologize, I've gone on a little bit at length today. The very last thing I'll talk about this morning is, while there's been no desire for it here, I know that there's been some concern on the part of some about a return to masking or lockdowns or a new push for vaccines. And quite simply put, I don't support any of those things. And specifically for those who are concerned, if you happen to work for this county, whether you choose to wear a mask or not, or whether you are vaccinated or not, will not affect your employment status here as far as I'm concerned. Your choices are yours and left to you and the wisdom of your doctors, and that's simply the case. And that's it for me this morning, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, you follow that.
Told you. No, and like I like to say, I love Carroll County. I also really value getting to serve with these four gentlemen, and you switched the order today, but still, when those two commissioners and this guy talk ahead of me, they've covered 90% of what I'm going to want to cover, which now I can say that sounded good and move on. But no, it's we've said before, we have very diverse opinions, and some good opinions, and it's just it makes it a good board. So thank you guys, and maybe a little long, but thank you.
When you get older, you're supposed to be long-winded, right? I think I've got that pegged already.
And there is
Yes.
no age discrimination between you and I. I just appreciate the experience and scar tissue that you hold. So that's all. Just saying.
Okay. Fire departments, volunteers. Lineburg's doing a bingo thing, and I love how they put it out with the bingo people because they love what they do, and And it was interesting that the Seniors on the Go Expo had bingo going on, and I've learned you don't walk through and interrupt them, and it's sacred when they're playing bingo. So I had sent this to a couple of my friends, just saying, you know, even if you can't afford the bus, you get the bingo. So please go out and support our fire companies. Many of them do the bingo, and it's a good fundraiser. Seniors on the Go let me back up. The Mudgetts, in honor of Thomas R. Mudgett, who passed within the last year, they're doing a gun raffle, and it's all the profits go to Career and Tech, which Thomas Mudgett and now Justin Mudgett have been very active supporting Career and Tech. So I want to let everybody know that, and if you have the opportunity, go out and support them. I'm on the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Committee, and this is the event we have, and I think I've mentioned it before, but in November we're going to honor the gentleman on the right and induct them into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame through the Maryland chapter. The first name on there is Michael Duffy, who happens to work for Carroll County Public Schools, and while he coached a fair amount in Howard County, we can't hold that against him. He's done a lot for Carroll County. He's done a lot for on the state level. And there's a Mount St. Joe coach there. There's a wrestling official there. It's a diverse group. Lem Satterfield, some of you may or may not remember, he was a reporter for Baltimore Sun, and really covered Carroll County at a time that the local paper maybe wasn't doing it quite so much. So it's a good group. If you're interested, let me know, and would love to get you tickets to that event. Commissioner Rothstein and I went to Raising the Bar, which was a workforce development. I think they were there for 3 days with learning seminar and talk, and they focused a bunch on Blueprint. And Heather Powell from Carroll County was down there, and we had a great talk with her. I don't always, and I'm doing a lot of I don't always think ahead. I should have taken a picture of you standing with somebody, and I apologize. I just didn't do that. So I only have the governor. But he spoke the day after we were there, and it's just a great event, and it's great to see Carroll County represented there, and Commissioner Rothstein knows a lot of the Anne Arundel County people and a lot of the other people, so we had some great discussions and with a lot of good people there.
I'll tell you, just to quickly interrupt, only the governor, he has the right staff in place. He put Secretary Portia Wu in place as the Secretary of Labor, and she has incredible pedigree of labor, along with the Executive Director of Workforce Development for his staff, and she came from the national level. So,
cool.
Yeah, he's putting his right feet forward, or
Yes.
when it comes to labor, and Heather Powell, was recognized multiple times during this conference for what Carroll County is doing when it comes to employment. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good evening, and the secretaries were walking around the room talking to all of us. Like you say, he's put together a good group of people who recognize little old Carroll County more than I might thought they would have. So it's very good. The Seniors on the Go, I mentioned that. That was pictures from last week. There's Seniors on the Go. The lady in the picture is Victoria Parks. This was her first year as the coordinator of that event. She did a great job. The other two are veterans, Bill Nash and Bob Inney, and they did complain to her that either they ran out of coffee or didn't have coffee, and so I'm sure we'll have coffee next year. The state's attorney's office complained to me that it was too warm in that building, so I don't know if they can't take the heat, or I listened very nicely and nodded my head, and then I said, I got to move on. I don't really care. So I'm glad I got to see their booth. And nice jacket. Tonight, down at Finksburg Library, the State Highway is doing a informational meeting on 91 and 140. I think it's going to be a lot of attendance. And the State Highway, when they did the bridges on 91 informational meeting, they orchestrated very well, and I'm sure the district engineer will be there. Some people higher than our district will be there. Project manager will be there. So if anybody has any thoughts about how that intersection is going to work out, tonight's the night to talk to them and see. I did the fundraiser. 9/11, everybody's talked about that. It was a great morning, a great event, and it touches you. You mentioned the schools with that. They had all their flags at half-mast, and hopefully they made it an opportunity to talk to kids in all the schools. It's a sombering day, and maybe, I mean, argumentatively, that Pearl Harbor maybe are probably the worst days in the history of our country, and it's sad, but it's exciting to see how it pulled our country together.
Yes.
Both events, you know, pulled our country together and showed we cared. Yesterday, I was at the Opioid Prevention Coalition with the Health Department. Great discussions. Great presentations. I apologize, I don't have information now, but I probably will by next week. They're doing some things with memorial benches for victims of abuse, drug abuse, or suicide, and I want to try to find out. I know they're putting one in Cape Horn Park, which is my area of the county. I think that's neat, but I want to find out. I know there's a group doing it. If you donate plastic to a chain, a grocery chain, they will get you 2 benches a year or something, and then the health department's doing these with the wording on it, and I want to find out how people can help them do more of those. I just thought that was awesome, and kind of superficial compared to the discussion with the law enforcement there and some of the recovery people who now work for the health department. It's just a great group, and they care so much, and you guys back there all know it. It just amazes me. You know, we talk about whatever, pot isn't the pot that the old people used. Nothing is. I mean, it's new drugs all the time. They are very creative. There's stuff that how we stop overdoses don't work with some of the new drugs. It's depressing how creative that industry is, and how much and how hard it is to fight it. Carroll County Public Schools, my colleague mentioned that. I'll keep it to three things. One, I fully support what the superintendent's doing. I'm so glad we have a strong superintendent in this county who very much values that families get to decide, when reasonable, for their kids. Now, I also want to mention, none of this is meant as disrespect to librarians or educators, but when you make porn available to school kids, my opinion, it's just wrong. And I'm so glad that they're doing it, but they're doing it in conjunction with the committee, with the librarians, and it'll work. I won't be shocked if the result ends up being that even some of the questionable books might be at the librarian's desk, and if mom and dad write a note and say, my daughter or son can check it out, they're allowed to. And maybe that's a good compromise, but I don't know if that's going to work or not. There were, I think, 15 speakers last night. It was interesting when the Board of Ed made the decision to limit the speakers to 15 and have them submit the day before and let staff evaluate who could talk. This and people were, we were taking away their rights to speak, et cetera, et cetera. This is the first meeting since that rule changed that there's been 15 speakers. It's been 5, 6, 8, 10. So it doesn't infringe on anybody's rights and makes the meetings go well. my colleague mentioned masks and vaccines, and yes, I'm very much opposed to mandates. They weren't effective, and they're not worth doing, and it's back to individual choice, and I very much support that. I think I've covered that. One more comment about seniors, since for some reason I fall in that group. Getting older is the best option that I'm aware of, and I'm so happy how you described it. I don't want to see age limits on anything, and I mean, I see people 10 years older than I am that can run a very long race, maybe a marathon. I can't, but they're more capable than I am. And again, you see others at advanced age that are very sharp and do their jobs very well. And then you see some at younger ages that don't. So I think you addressed that well. Thank you. And
Thank you.
I'm not sure. Am I older than you, or are we same
Oh,
age?
heck yeah, you are.
Thank you. I'm done.
You got a heck of a lot more scar tissue than I do. Yeah, 9/11 was, as always, a special and solemn day. You know, very humbled always to get the opportunity to share a few words. You know, and I won't say it's difficult, but after 22 years to find the right words to share, because of all those that were before us that had the opportunity as great leaders to say some words. So I really reflected on, you know, the men and women in green, blue, and red, and EMS and the ambulance that were just there selflessly with such courage and never backed away. You know, I shared also, you know, and I took a little bit of a twist from, I guess, my Judaic background, and talked about, you know, Passover. And the whole idea there was that these folks that did these atrocities, this evil, was just full of hatred, but it didn't represent the Arab and Muslim community. And it was very difficult for us to get over that. And we went through a very, very dark time, just as, you know, the Pharaoh of Egypt didn't represent the Egyptians. And it took even longer for us to get through a very difficult time. And the idea there is there's a vengeance and a patriotism that goes along with stopping things. And I was a part of that with my, you know, I had multiple deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, all that kind of stuff. But what really seals the deal is the camaraderie and love that we have, and we got to always maintain, because that just squelches everything else. And Commissioner Vigliotti, you shared, you know, this is not a time for hatred or bigotry, you know, and I am getting tired of a lot of partisanship, which turns into hatred and bigotry, as opposed to listening, learning, and leading together with, you know, who we are as Americans. Okay, I'll get off the pulpit on that. It was a tough week. We had a Deer County employee pass away, you know, just a couple days ago. And around the world, the horrific environmental events in Morocco and Libya, thousands were killed, thousands. And they're still trying to find folks, especially in Libya with the dams breaking and the mudslides. It's just hard to imagine that, you know, all of Sykesville being wiped out within, you know, minutes, or, you know, all of Carroll County with a third of its population gone within minutes or an hour. Very, very difficult. And so thoughts, and, you know, let their memories and be a blessing to our own county employee, along with all those that have been lost. The Senior Expo was phenomenal. They're just a bunch of rock stars, and, you know, Ms. Steckel, along with the whole team, know that, but they also know when I say rock stars, it means that I'm asking for them to do more work. And they just are phenomenal with everything they do. So we are very blessed to have a community that cares so much about our seniors and about, you know, just doing what's right. Carroll County, nobody knows it better than Carroll Countyans, and it is highlighted through that Senior Expo. Wine Fest, another way Carroll Countyans do it right. We have a wine festival coming up on Saturday over at the Farm Museum, and that should be a lot of fun. So expect a couple, 2,000-3,000 over there. It's different this year because it's a one-day wine festival as opposed to 2 days. But, appreciate all the logistics that are going to support it, from the security to getting in and out safely, and for folks to just have a great time on Saturday. I believe the weather's supposed to be beautiful. Excuse me, then the last thing is tomorrow evening begins Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year for those, the Jews, around the world. And, it starts Friday night, goes through Saturday, Sunday. So I'll balance my time, whether I go to the wine festival and enjoy that or listen to a sermon, which I'm not sure I want to right now, but that's all right.
Could you do both at the same time?
I can do both at the same time. I'm allowed, especially if I have my mom with me. So that could be a good excuse. But wishing everybody Shana Tova, a very happy, healthy, and good new year as we move forward. Okay, let's have one proclamation. So, Commissioner Vigliotti, you have something to share?
Thank you, Commissioner Rothstein. It is Constitution Week coming up from September 17th through September 23rd, 2023. I believe we have James Engler from the Westminster Chapter of Sons of the American Revolution with us today. Would you like to come up to the front, sir? So I'll read through the proclamation, then we'll turn it over to you. Proclamation, Constitution Week, September 17th, 2023 to September 23rd, 2023. And I will only read the first whereas, I promise. Whereas we the people did ordain and establish a Constitution for the United States of America to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. And it is important that all citizens fully understand the provisions, principles, and meaning of the Constitution so they can support, preserve, and defend it against encroachment. And Constitution Week provides an opportunity for all Americans to learn about and reflect upon the rights and privileges of citizenship and its responsibilities. And September 17th, 2023 marks the 236th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States by our nation's founders. And the Congress, by a joint resolution of February 29th, 1952, designated September 17th as Citizenship Day, and by joint resolution of August 2nd, 1956, requested that the President proclaim the week beginning September 17th and ending September 23rd of each year as Constitution Week, and it is fitting to accord official county recognition to this important anniversary. And we urge all leaders of civic, social, and education organizations to conduct ceremonies and programs that celebrate our Constitution and to reaffirm our rights and obligations as citizens of our great nation. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby commend the Westminster Chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution for lending its leadership in promoting this historic and patriotic observance and preserving our cherished American heritage, and hereby proclaim September 17th, 2023 through September 23rd, 2023 as Constitution Week. Adopted this 14th day of September 2023, signed the entire Board of Carroll County Commissioners. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I've been here before over the good number of years. My name is Jim Engler. I'm the immediate past president of the Westminster Chapter. I'm a past president of the Maryland State Sons of the American Revolution, and currently am serving as the Vice President General for the Mid-Atlantic District, which covers Virginia, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. The SAR is the largest lineage society in the country. We've got nearly 37,000 members, spread mainly across the U.S., but also across the world. Every one of us can trace our ancestry back to a man or a woman who provided either military, civil, or some patriotic service. And yes, there were women that served even back then, maybe pretending to be men so that they could get by, but definitely serving and definitely sacrificing. Being even in civil government was a risk of treason, of being hung by the British if they wanted to. Even taking an oath of allegiance or paying taxes to support the army. was a treasonable act. But those were the acts that helped to defend and create the country that we've got. A few weeks ago, I was up in Brooklyn, where we honored the loss of over 250 Marylanders at the Battle of Brooklyn. That was an early battle of the war. It could have ended disastrously for the American cause, but those Marylanders sacrificed their lives and allowed the American army to get away and to fight another day. What we do, the chapter has been in Carroll County since 1985, is to try to promote that history to our members of the community today. We honor those in public safety. We run contests for the youth to try to link them to what the past was and how it applies today. We try to honor those patriots by doing grave markings, recognizing our ROTC and JROTC students as well as Eagle Scouts. So we have a variety of activities we do. One, in fact, to put on your agenda for sometime in the near future is that we did get approval from the State Highway Administration for a new highway marker, which will be put south of Taneytown near Bruceville. In 1781, General Anthony Wayne marched from York down to Charlotte, Virginia, to join up with Lafayette's contingent to harass Cornwallis prior to Yorktown. At the end of May of that year, they encamped at Bruceville. So we are trying to mark the entire of the trail from York all the way down to Charlotte. That's our component. So we do have some history of the Revolution that we can take pride in here in Carroll County, and we're going to be doing that, so we'll be inviting you when we get that. I do thank you very much for taking the time and doing the proclamation for Constitution Week. It is important that we let people know what that history is, and history has been something that's been mentioned multiple times this morning. So again, thank you very much.
I appreciate it, and I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I went to Lafayette Elementary School and Anthony Wayne Junior High School. So both were, very well leaders or very well known leaders up in Jersey during the Revolutionary War. So I appreciate you sharing that. And the other thing I just want to share is, and I'll get to my colleagues, is, for a long time I took an oath to the Constitution, and others have asked me to take other oaths to other statements or things and actions. And I say I can respect it, I could support it, I could do a lot of things, but for me, the oath to the Constitution was the oath that I needed to stand by. And it was not in disrespect to any, effort, but, you take it very seriously, I'll put it that way. And that's what holds this oath above all others. It's because it's our Constitution. So that's my 2 cents. But any thoughts or comments?
Just I guess more of a question. Are we able to trace, and I know Carroll County was obviously Frederick County back then, but are we able to trace any residents of what would have been Carroll County to the Battle of Long Island or to service at any point in the American Revolution?
It's a good question. I don't believe we have, but we do have a number that served in various areas. We have somewhere around 60 known patriots buried in Carroll County. A number of them served in militia in Pennsylvania and then moved down into this area. We do have notable patriots. For instance, Joshua Gist, buried just near Westminster. His brother Mordecai was the commanding officer for the regiment that fought that day in Brooklyn. So it sometimes is a little bit difficult to tell for certain what the actual history of any individual patriot is, where they fought. If they did a pension, yes, we'll know that kind of information because they'll mention it in their pension. But there were many that did not put in a pension because at the time it was mainly for those that were destitute. So they were looking for some support because of the sacrifices they had made. If you didn't, you generally didn't have that kind of thing. People did get land grants for their service. Sometimes they had to say what they did, sometimes they didn't, but that was mainly for federal service. So it is questionable. Sometimes you can find it out, sometimes you can't. I'm not sure that we've actually identified a particular person in Carroll County who was at Brooklyn itself. There were somewhere around 400 Marylanders that were in that battle, and 250 of them died as a result of it. So not too many did come back from that particular one.
Now, originally I'm from Long Island, and whenever we used to leave the island, typically we would go past some of the areas where they had plaques setting up the Battle of Long Island. And it always interested me because you have like highways that completely surround what used to be battlefield. It used to be the farmland, right? And the marsh there. And, I think it's a credit to us here, and of course to places like Gettysburg where that history gets preserved. And I suppose my other question is, I know after the battle, there's been all this archaeological research done about where they buried the bodies of the Marylanders who fought and died during the Battle of Long Island. And they think they have it narrowed down to like a certain section of the city where they were buried in a mass grave. And I was just wondering if you knew anything else about that, if there had been any progress made about whether or not we would be able to find and honor the Maryland men who died in that battle.
Well, there are some claims about a particular location where they were believed to be buried. A couple of years ago, New York was doing some work for, I believe it was either a park or an elementary school, and as a part of that they had to do an archaeological dig. I don't believe they found any of the remains at that point. So to this point, they sacrificed, died, and their location where they were buried is known only to God, truly.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Just thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, why don't we get a picture to commemorate and get you on your way.
You always got to adjust yourself and make sure you look okay, right?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Thank you.
Okay, item number one, Mr. Zaleski, why don't you come on up? This is on transferring some funds.
Thank you.
Transferring the funds, operating approval of resolution 0, I can't read it since I scribbled it out. Well, approving resolution to transfer funds for purchase of additional solar speed signs. How's that?
0.24.01.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so this is one of those things that always seems awkward. You're approving a transfer because you're about to consider a purchase, and there is no budget for that purchase at this point. So you've already really covered what I'm doing here.
So we need to transfer the funds before we spend the dollars.
Motion to approve resolution 0.24-01 to transfer funds for purchase of additional solar speed signs.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any discussion on that transfer? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now let's spend the money.
Let me
Thank
convince
you,
you to
Ted.
spend the money first. And then, it is unusual that you're
What's that?
transferring money before I even make the request to
Well,
do it. I thought
If
it
we
would be
disapprove it, maybe we'll put it back into the operating funds. So,
with some interest. Maureen?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, request your approval to purchase 10 solar speed signs with the needed accessories to All Traffic Solutions in the amount of $52,135. This cost includes a $7,000 discount. All Traffic Solutions was awarded a CoStarz contract that was competitively bid, and with the board's approval of the transfer of funds, this amount is now within the budget, and no additional funds should be required.
So good morning. As Maureen said that I'm asking for the purchase of 5 additional sets. So it's 10 signs, speed signs. We typically put the signs out in pairs. So if you look at a road like Lineborough, we would put them out at the beginning of town and at the exit of town. So we put them out in sets typically. My office and on a lesser scale, but between the 2 offices, the commissioners and the sheriff's office, we get hundreds of speed complaints a year. Citizens often ask for the digital speed signs to be placed because they are effective in slowing down traffic and help us with targeted enforcement through the data that we collect. Typically, citizens call into our office and ask for additional enforcement on the roadways based on their observations. And it appears to them that the traffic is traveling above the posted speed limit, and these signs often help us with substantiating what they see. Sometimes it unsubstantiates what they see, but oftentimes it helps them, and we'll provide them with the data that we get once we put the signs out for a period of time. Many roadways we are familiar with, and we use data from our current digital signs along with crash data to conduct enforcement. Additionally, we'll work with the county traffic engineering office or Public Works if we see a roadway that has a signage issue or has some sort of, like I guess an engineering issue. We'll work with them, and oftentimes we'll go in and work with them, get signage placed in appropriate places or do something with the roadway, and we don't need to enforce as often. So there are other tactics and techniques other than enforcement, throwing up signs, because we only have 2 sets of the signs, so we can only put these out in 2 different areas at any given time. It's hard to accommodate all the requests that we get into our office for the signs. Citizens make the request for the signs. They like seeing them, and they do work. They do slow down traffic in the areas where they are positioned. The signs we are asking to purchase are a newer generation than the ones we currently have. They are solar powered and don't require a battery, which the ones we currently do need batteries. Those signs that we use require 2 batteries apiece. They're about $300 for each battery, and they last for about 5 days of gathering data. Once the batteries start to go down, they've got to be pulled off, recharged, and put back up. Typically, we only leave them out between 3 and 5 days, and then we'll move them and take them to another location. Deputy DeVivio is in the back. He's my guy that runs them around. He's our traffic enforcement deputy, and he is moving them around constantly. There's a big need for them. These additional signs will allow us to deploy more in areas throughout the county and for an extended period of time because they don't require the battery replacement. The signs also come with a data package that provides us with real-time analysis and reports of traffic volume and speeds. The data is web-based and allows us to target enforcement based on what we actually see. I'll give you an example. I think we had put them up in Lineborough for a period of time, and the deputy will remote into them, and we can see a data report come through. And there are specific times of the day, and there was one car that was buzzing through same speed just about every morning. It was at Mach speed, just because there's nobody out there. So I sent Mario out to introduce himself to that individual. But that does give us real-time data. We can look at that and enforce based on what we see. In 2022, stakeholders in Carroll County, including my office, developed a strategic traffic safety plan for all roadways in the county. Purchasing these additional signs and deploying them allows our office to meet recommendations contained within the plan. And I think overall, additional signs that we are able to place throughout the county will help our efforts to slow traffic and handle complaints more effectively. I get a lot of the complaints in all 5 of your districts, and I'll send Mario out to put the signs up. And again, there's a list of places that would like to see the signs. And there are repeat customers that will come to us and say, look, the signs helped. Can you please place them back up? And we'll go and do that, gather data from it. And then I think I've sent most of you the reports that are generated from it. It does average speeds, high speeds, low speeds, times of day, traffic volume, everything that we need in order to enforce. Sometimes citizens will call us and say, look, the signs themselves are slowing people down, correct. But when you take them away, they speed back up. So what we'll do is we'll we can remotely turn off the speed, so it just gathers data so that we can look at raw data without somebody seeing a sign and slowing down. So there's so many different advantages to having the sign systems out there. And just looking at all 5 of you, I can think of 2 or 3 roadways in your jurisdictions, in your districts that I always get calls on. And so these would be really advantageous for us. So it is an out-of-budget request. I'm asking for the 5 of you to consider it, and if you see fit, to make the approval to purchase them.
I'm certainly in support of this. Sheriff, you and your department do an amazing job, and I know as you mentioned, we all get certain complaints. And I say complaints, I don't mean it in a negative way, but if we get concerns from citizens about speeding in certain areas. And so for me, going ahead with the purchase of these signs would allow not only the targeting of speeding and to ameliorate the concerns of citizens, but I think it would also help your department because it allows you to more adequately place resources where they need to go. We all know we're working with limited funds and limited resources, and so this for me is another, as you would say, a tool in your chest to be able to serve the public. So I'm completely in support of this.
The next step, could be cameras.
So it's interesting you say that. So I am not a big camera enforcement person. I'm in support of them on our school buses, and it is very random. The only place that I would approach you, the 5 of you, and say let's look at this a little closer would be directly in front of a school.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do have a meeting. I don't know exactly when it is on my calendar, but in the next couple of weeks, I'll be traveling to Montgomery County to see how they work their systems. They're just generating revenue there, and I'm not sure. But the system itself is what I want to see. Where they're positioned is what's extremely important. And I'll give you an example. And I grew up in your district, so Freedom Elementary.
Yep.
Carrolltown Elementary,
Yep.
Eldersburg Elementary. I mean, I can think of so many different schools, but I wouldn't support a camera system that operates not
Right.
During the school hours, and it would have to operate almost directly in front of a school system in order to slow traffic down. So there would be a huge discussion between my office and the Board of Commissioners before we even took a step like that. So I'm somewhat against it. But the future says that I've got to look at these things, and whether they're right now, I don't know. Whether it's something right for the future, maybe, but I'm neglect if I don't look at these things.
It's a good answer,
So-
because professionally and personally, they're frustrating in places, just like you said, to generate revenue, and I'm not a big proponent of cameras, but I am of safety. So if, looking at schools, and whatever we can do to continue to safeguard our kids going to schools, that's, that may be locations.
So give you an example of what I'm against. East Middle is a golf ball shot from here. I don't know, a 3-wood for you and 8-iron for me, but
maybe a pitch wedge for you.
But there's no reason to put a camera in front of East
Right.
Middle. But what some jurisdictions do is they use the benefit of having the ability to put a camera within, let's say, a half a mile from a school, and they throw it in a watering hole that they're just trying to gather revenue
Baltimore
on.
County
And
and
I'm just
Montgomery
so
County.
against that. So those would be things that we would strategically look at. It may be an option, it may not be, but I think we got to talk about it. These are good devices that help us gather data, target enforcement.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll slow some of the complaints that you all get and help us with multiplying our resources.
I appreciate it, and I absolutely agree with you, which is not always the case, but in this case I do.
What,
So,
the 3-iron and
yes.
the 8-iron? Yeah, that's probably.
I don't know
yeah.
about that, but I'm broken. Leave me alone. Okay. Are there any other comments before we hear a motion?
So,
Yeah,
a comment and then a question. I love what you've done with the movable ones, but this isn't just about complaints and speed. Church Street and Limeboro has accidents, and the state highway's been out there, the sheriff's been out there, and one of the things I love about Carroll County, everybody seems to work together. Citizens were involved, and the state highway actually paid to move fences on private property to increase visibility. and they did rumble strips, they changed their signs, and now with this incorporated in it, I think it's really going to cut down on accidents. The last, other than this, the last thing there, the one corner has some shrubbery, and there's been some difficult communications back and forth, but I think that's going to get resolved in the next couple of weeks and increase visibility on that corner. So it's not just about speed and complaints. It's accidents and people being hurt. So I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate doing this. But then my question, you don't coordinate with it, or you probably coordinate the towns that are, so a lot of the towns are using them now. They're buying them, they're deciding the locations,
Sure.
maybe in discussions with you guys, but the towns are doing that
They
themselves.
are
correct?
themselves, yeah. And a lot of them, I think New Windsor has a set that they move around, that my deputy will move around the town. But that's their choice. They put them there. They see a benefit in that. And really, I think the overwhelming majority of people want to comply with the speed limit. And that subtle reminder that, hey, here's the speed and here's what you're doing is helpful to them. We've all seen that. And going through Manchester, I think you see them. And I'm through Lineborough all the time. The two commanders behind me are. One of them lives just north of Lineborough. And so I agree with you in that particular area. And I know that Commissioner Vigliotti's got an area. Commissioner Guerin's got an area. He's got 50 areas. I mean, we could put these signs up everywhere and permanently place them, and I think they would be beneficial. These would be permanent that I could pull up and move to different locations if need be. But I believe the Lineborough Road location is something that I don't believe I would pull them from. I think it's something that would need to stay there and would really help with everything else we've done with engineering and working with the community there to try and keep that. We just see that as an area that is bound for something tragic, and it's kind of runs in line with what we saw at 27 in Gillis Falls several years ago. And it took the Board of Commissioners, actually a previous board, to put up money to do things temporary to enhance and incentivize SHA to go ahead and get on that intersection, and it has made tremendous improvements. We knew there was going to be a traffic fatality there, and we took steps to stop it. In this particular case, I'm with you on Lineborough Road. It needs to stay there, and I think it'll help that location significantly.
And the other thing I really appreciate, the data you get from it is so important to you guys, but I love that you make that public so people realize it's not, I'm not just looking at my speed, so are you guys.
Yeah, and if they're right, they're right. I mean, we substantiate what they see, and we work with them to try and get that slowed down. But please don't think that throwing signs up and enforcing off of the signs are the panacea. It isn't. It's working with Chris and engineering and making sure that the roadway is designed in an appropriate way to slow things down. There's other things that can be done, and we do work with those folks. So, and SHA is a key example of that. So.
Thank you.
Great discussion.
Motion to award the purchase of 10 solar speed signs with the needed accessories to All Traffic Solutions in the amount of $52,135.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is that what it was? 52,000? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Seen here none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
I will
Sheriff.
be in touch with each of you as we start to move these signs around, so you know exactly where they're going.
Thank
I
you
think
very
I'm
much.
up next.
You're
am I?
1 for 1, so let's see if we can keep it going. Let's talk about the proposed nuisance ordinance.
Good morning, Commissioners. You recall we had a public hearing on this matter on August 31st, after which you voted to leave the record open for 10 additional days for any public comment. We haven't received any in my office. I'm not sure that you have either. Again, the purpose of this ordinance is to address frequent flyers or frequent use of police resources at a handful of properties throughout the county. A team from the state's attorney's office, sheriff's office, county attorney's office met a few times, and we crafted this ordinance, which is designed to be proactive. We'd like to work with certain properties to reduce the number of calls to their properties. As I said, there's a handful that are generating a lot of calls, and it's straining our police resources. And real quickly, if in a calendar year you have a non-residential or mixed-use property and you run up 10 calls, you're going to be put on probation. If it's a residential use, you're going to be put on probation after 5. If it's a multifamily use, you're going to be put on probation after 12 calls within a calendar year. If you have any violations after that, there's going to be civil citations issued. The first in the amount of $500, second $750, and the third $1,000. Since our public hearing, I did make one small change to the ordinance to address a concern that was raised by a couple that showed up from Tawnytown. They said, if I'm living next to a bawdy house and I call the police a lot of times on the bawdy house because there's bawdy things going on, are you going to come after me when I make my 5th or 10th call? And the answer is no. And I specifically put an exemption in there. This does not count as a call. A citizen reporting a disturbance at or on a property owned by another. So that should address their concerns. We have a star-studded cast here to answer any questions you may have.
Star-studded. So we did get an email. Before we get to the star-studded cast, we did get an email, I believe, that was shared amongst all of us. I can't remember who the community member was, the name, but we did, and we read it thoroughly. At least my expectation is that we all did. So, and that's all I got from public community, but I know I received that email. And it's always good to see our men in blue, all 3 of you. I'm not sure, but you know.
And the pinstripe
So
attorney.
there's so many
Nice
things
to
I
have
could
one of
say
them.
about that.
You have enough of them.
No, I'm not gonna. I will not mess with Mr. Stewart this morning. I appreciate your attendance and work that you and your team are doing. Although you were complaining about the Senior Expo being too hot, I guess. I don't know. So
He wasn't there.
He wasn't.
Well, he wasn't. He didn't complain. Others did. Tell him I said hi.
I will.
go ahead.
Piggybacking on the change you made, so many people are concerned about the individuals, but that's not the purpose of this. This isn't to make money. This is to hopefully fix a problem. But let me use a generic example. So what you are protecting against, let's say Commissioner Rothstein and I live in the same street, and I call you because he's doing something awful.
He's being bawdy.
And then I call again, and then I call again. You're not tracking me, I'm not getting punished, but if he's really doing something wrong, it's bringing attention to that, and we encourage that.
Correct. That the calls would be assessed to Mr. Rothstein, Commissioner
Okay.
Rothstein.
But to follow up on that, we will not partake in neighborhood disputes where
Yes.
you just decide to pick up the phone and call on Commissioner Rothstein. It has to be if you live next to each other, we've got a constitutional issue anyway, because you're in different districts. But we won't partake in doing that for you to help you with getting him in trouble. We will substantiate each individual call. And most people would think, well, how are you going to do that? We get 12-hour reports from patrol. My entire command staff and I do, and we can see, and even the sergeants, corporals, and the lieutenants see exactly what's going on. They'll be educated on this ordinance and exactly how we're looking to have it enforced, should it need to be enforced. But it isn't so that you can get your neighbor in trouble just because. It has to be a substantiated complaint, and then we will work through the substantiation of that complaint before we take any sort of action. And then I think Tim did address the issue with the Tawnytown folks. And I think even after that, Major Stem and Mayor Miller was here from Tawnytown, and they spoke and addressed all that. And that seems to be some of the stuff online that people were bantering about. And I don't quite understand that. All they have to do is sit and watch and listen to what we're saying. I'm not sure how we can say it any clearer, but but pick up the phone and call 911. We'll come out if there's an emergency, and if there's a non-emergency, we'll come out and substantiate the complaint or unsubstantiate it. And if we need to use the ordinance, we'll use it. If we need to use educate people, we will. It's at our discretion. So it's just a tool in our toolbox again.
And this no way whatsoever does this affect how responsive you're going to be to
Absolutely
complaints?
not.
And that,
No.
because some people are like, oh, they just don't want to have to go. Well, no, you want to go.
No, we do. Yeah, this is a means to an end for an area that might have a problem that needs to be addressed, and so we'll address it.
And your point's well taken. I mean, people making opinions, again, on social media, which can be good and can be
It
bad.
blows my mind, some of the things. I'm like, you got to be
But it's
kidding
not
me.
that we're going to address it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
if folks, and this is very important to the entire community, you want something addressed, come directly to us and we will address it. And we are always available, phone, text, emails. We make ourselves very available. But these social media threads are just interesting at best.
And
So-
listen, I don't care what people think. It's sometimes the printed press also. Some of the headlines are just ridiculous. The fact that an organization would say this is not a money grab would be the headlines is only clickbait.
Right.
Report on the story accurately, please.
And I think moving forward, depending on how we vote here, you guys got a group and very diligently worked on writing this. But if we find out in 1 month, 6 months, 1 year that something in it is a problem, and you'll be here telling us to change it, and we'll be asking you, should we change this? It's not, this isn't black and white forever with nobody reevaluating. It'll be constantly evaluated.
Even
by
the Constitution was amended many times. So.
The only question I do have with this is the numbers. Do we have anywhere in here that there's flexibility at the discretion of
Yes.
law enforcement? So, after not 6 but 3, because of the level of, concerns there may be.
It's written in the permissive may, so it's
Okay.
it's discretionary.
is?
It's not like they're going to sit there and just gather data and start issuing,
Okay.
like a bingo chart.
To your point, though, Commissioner, the numbers are set, but the ability for law enforcement to determine the qualifying
Right.
factors of the call are not.
Okay.
And as I said, I just made a suggestion too, and I think I shared it with the sheriff's office. And in other jurisdictions, what they do at the first time warning is they give them they come out with a pamphlet and explain the law and say this is the law. If you didn't know, and you got that pamphlet, Major Stem?
Yes, sir.
Right. So it's up to them to use, but it's worked in other jurisdictions. This is the law. We'll leave it with you. We'll explain it, sort of an outreach. And like I said, teaching's all about repetition.
Are you saying that Major Stem received a pamphlet because of the warnings? Or?
No.
Being naughty.
Yeah, just,
It's just
It's
something.
a word I don't use often, but actually it's a word I never use.
It's probably the only word that Joe knows the definition to, and nobody else in the room does. So.
Maybe,
Maybe Tim does because he used it.
Well, I'd like to say today the Joe Vigliotti word of the day. We're here to ameliorate your concerns about this nuisance ordinance. Correct? Did I
Yes,
use it
sir.
right?
You got that right.
Once again, way too many syllables, so I can't figure it out.
And as far as being a moneymaker, the amount of effort and time that will go into collecting a civil citation will far exceed the amount of
Correct.
the civil citation. So it's not a moneymaker. It's not something we're rushing into to try
This is
and.
addressing a problem and a concern with a suitable solution,
So I'm
the way we see it.
I'm completely in support of this, and if everybody will humor me for a moment or two, I want to share my thoughts as to why I'm in support of this. The first thing I want to do is I want to commend Commissioner Gordon and our state's attorney and our sheriff and Tim and Major Stem for putting this together and bringing this up. I certainly think it's important. But so being a citizen of any country or state or county, and specifically of this county, entails certain obligations and duties, and among those are responsibility and accountability. These values and citizenship can be traced back to Athens and Jerusalem, and that same set of obligations also applies to organizations, entities, property owners, and businesses, all of whom form a part of the fabric of the community in which they exist. There are some individuals and businesses in particular that do not take the responsibilities of citizenship seriously. And there are some businesses that have adopted policies and public positions which are clearly not in keeping with responsible citizenship. They call law enforcement when a crime has been committed, have paperwork filed for financial reasons, and then do not cooperate with law enforcement which actively tries to solve the crime. Or they repeatedly call for police assistance to handle the consequences of an issue that they do not choose to address at their foundation. And there are other such similar situations as well. But you cannot be a business or with corporate policies and positions that demonize the very law enforcement agencies that you rely on to do what you will not. And you cannot take up their time and resources without any intent to actually address the problem itself. Those businesses and other individuals not only injure themselves, but they absorb the efforts of law enforcement that are desperately needed elsewhere. Now, to be clear, this does not apply to Good Samaritans who call in crimes, or citizens who file reports, neighbors who need to report disturbances, or individuals who need help. Do not hesitate to call law enforcement no matter who you are. They will always, always respond. Nothing will prevent them from responding. Again, if someone is not involved in the ongoing criminal activity, no fines or punitive action are going to be taken against somebody for reporting it. Now, this isn't about trying to curtail requests for assistance as has been reported in certain media outlets, but it is about prompting those who repeatedly and regularly call the police for reasons of self-interest to either begin to cooperate with law enforcement, to reconsider their policies, to seek real solutions, or to let law enforcement agencies actually do their jobs. It's also about encouraging them to become better, more responsible citizens. So in my mind, this is another way that we back law and order and hold ourselves as elected officials to account to the citizens that we serve by demonstrating that we're serious about improving the conditions under which law enforcement must do their work, giving them the discretion and the latitude to address the changing nature of crime, but also allowing them to actively combat the crime itself is key. And so I'm very much in support of this ordinance.
I think it's the chair.
It's-
I do. I think we may have to swap chairs or something. It was very well said.
And one of the problems, because I respect that you do comment, that all you guys comment, and it's great. Unfortunately, like you on social media, my haters, I would bring written notes, maybe a motion, whatever, to a meeting, and the next day what I would see, I wonder who wrote that for him. You know, now you write your own, right?
I do. That are my dogs.
Okay.
Very well said, and I appreciate there, Commissioner Vigliotti.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, is there any other questions, discussion? If not, need to hear a motion.
Motion to adopt the proposed new ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, let's talk about contracting an award for CCTV inspection of existing storm drains.
Don't worry, I don't have a statement about this one. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Now we're getting to the stuff that I find exciting.
Well, I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Can I hear a motion?
All depends on how fast you talk.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Commissioner. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Engineering, request your approval to award a contract to Standard Pipe Services in the amount of $263,000. The Bureau of Engineering, as part of the FY24 Pavement Management Program, has identified existing storm drain systems that need further evaluation to determine if repairs will be required. This award will be for the CCTV inspection of those existing storm drains throughout the county. Standard Pipe Services is one of the county's term contractors who continue to provide this service. 3 quotes were received from 2 other term contractors, of which Standard Pipe Service provided the lowest quote for the scope of work to be completed. This amount is within the adopted budget.
So we're going to be using this service to video inspect approximately 32,000 linear feet of storm drain piping. As was mentioned, these are the roadways for our FY24 pavement management work. We're going to evaluate the existing conditions of pipes ranging in size from 15 inches to 60 inches so that we can determine the appropriate repair methods as we get further along in our FY24 pavement rehabilitation work. We did have 3 prices. Standard Pipe has performed this work for us in the past.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to award the contract for closed-circuit television inspection of existing storm drains to Standard Pipe Services in the amount of $263,000.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Thank
guys. I had a couple questions, and
I
you guys
apologize.
answered them.
Oh,
Well, great, thank you.
That's awesome.
there you go.
Commissioner Vigliotti, if and when you make it to be a president one day, we're going to know if you wrote your State of the Union or if somebody else wrote it.
Well, thank you for that very kind
It
word.
was very well written.
Okay, let's talk about bulk road salt.
Morning.
Kathy, Ryan, go at it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Roads Operations, requests your approval to award a contract for bulk road salt to Eastern Salt Company Incorporated in the amount of $78 a ton delivered. The annual amount spent will not exceed $1,500,000. This contract is awarded through Maryland State contract, which is a blanket purchase order, which was competitively bid. This amount is approved in the fiscal year 24 budget with no additional funds should be necessary, with a caveat that Kathy mentioned to me. If we have a really bad winter, there could be additional funds needed.
Oh, we don't talk about that right now. Okay.
Good morning. Carroll County Roads services about 1,000 miles of road, and obviously with snow comes the use of salt. Last year, we only used and ordered about 1,000 tons, which was beautiful. However, back in '21, we used about 14,500 tons of salt because we had a lot of snow, not multiple inches, but multiple occurrences. So, we have 4 salt domes that currently hold 13,300 tons, which are all filled to the max right now. We also rent 2 more locations from C.J. Miller, one in Basler and one at DD, which we truck salt to. And then at the end of the year, once we've used the salt, I try to make sure that we get it restocked before spring and summer come. We tend to get a little bit better price than the following year. Any questions?
So even the 2 C.J. Miller sites, you have it there 12 months a year?
No, we only have it there. We rent that facility
For them,
5
okay.
months.
So you
5
minimize
months from
the
November to
time there.
March. That's correct.
Your own domes, you keep it in?
Yes, yes.
Outside of the salt purchase, the salt dome that's located near Liberty High School off of Bartholomew. Hodges, thank you.
Correct.
I just couldn't remember Hodges. There was questions about the fencing around that. Has that ever been addressed?
That's a utility site,
Okay.
actually.
Right, that's
So,
utilities. We
okay.
share the salt dome, and we have a trailer
I
down
just
there. We
haven't
do
been back
keep
there in a
some stuff.
while, so.
The last time I was there, the fence was intact and
Okay.
fine. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the
Okay.
concern would have been.
Yeah, I just want to follow
There's
up.
one neighbor who doesn't care for the look.
Correct.
It's a chain link fence.
Right.
Chain link probably rusts over years, so it probably isn't the
And I
most
just was
aesthetic.
wondering, like I said, I used to run back there, but haven't been back there in a while. So, okay, just curious. Okay, regarding the salt, not anything else. Any discussion? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to award a contract for bulk road salt to Eastern Salt Company Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1.5 million.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second on the tongue-twisting
Oh my
bulk road
gosh.
salt?
He only struggles with small words.
I know.
Big ones like flow
One syllable,
out.
no problem. 2, 4, 6, yeah. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about HVAC renovation at the Carroll County Office Building. You know, you're absolutely right. Those were all one syllable. You just couldn't
Bulk
handle it.
road. Say that 10 times. Try that. 10
Absolutely
times fast. Bulk road.
Absolutely
Oh,
not.
my.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Okay,
Commissioners.
HVAC renovation, gentlemen.
All right. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Facilities, requests your approval to award a contract to Johnson Controls for the renovation and replacement of the HVAC system at Carroll County Office Building in the basement level in the amount of $422,625. This work will be performed under a Sourcewell contract that was competitively bid. This project will be paid using FRF funds and no additional money should be required.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're here today for your consideration to award Johnson Controls the contract to replace a constant velocity air handler and an air-cooled condensing unit. The current equipment is original to the building, is at the end of life with more than 40 years of in-service behind it. The upgrades and enhancements will include a high-efficiency York variable speed air handler, a new condenser on the roof, along with 11 VAV boxes throughout the conditioned space that will better serve the area, increase energy cost and savings, and better comfort for the workers. This HVAC unit serves several key departments on the basement level here at the county office building. And Thad's here. He has some background regarding these equipments, and I think there was a slide, but I don't see it pulled up.
That's okay.
So we can kind of talk about the background, Thad.
Well, the main part is the old unit's 40 years old. It's very noisy, leaks a lot, air-wise. Our new systems are very, very tight. They're considered what they call freak drives. Means all the motors are driven by frequency. We lower the frequency, the motor ramps down. We raise the frequency, the motor ramps up. VAV stands for variable air volume. So the whole time is if there's a demand, we can supply it. If there's not a demand, we can cut that unit back. That's what's saving you energy, and that's the big difference between a constant velocity and a variable volume unit. So it's very energy efficient, and also it's very, very quiet. The old unit, you can sit there as you walk by, you can hear it humming and moaning, and this new unit, you can barely hear it when you walk by.
It's awesome.
We did have pictures for you, but
that's okay.
Maybe next time.
Good use of the FRF funds, So,
I apologize, Commissioner. I apologize.
No, go on.
Just a quick, I guess, a sort of related question. I mean, I know that budget management has been having issues with their air conditioning. Is there any update to that? Is there any way that we're moving to?
The old systems, if they had two compressors, those two compressors were hooked together. So if one went down, it ruined the whole system. We make sure now that any system we have, it's a 4-pipe system versus a 2. So we can close down, if we lose one compressor, we can close that side down and still use the other compressor and still keep that space up. It's a redundant system, and this system will be redundant.
I just thought Miss Wyndham wanted to keep a sweat box in there or something, make them work harder. But that's okay. I like your answer better, but okay. Okay, any discussion on this HVAC purchase? Is there a motion out there?
Motion to award a contract to Johnson Controls for the renovation of the HVAC system in the basement area of the Carroll County office building in the amount of $422,625.
Second.
Got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, let's talk about a grant. Approval to submit application and acceptance of the award of the Federal 2023 Continuum of Care. Ladies.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Nice to see everybody again. Celine, nice to see you again.
Nice to see all of you. Okay. Well, good morning. Thank you for having us here. I'm here this morning. At the table with me is Stephanie Haley. She is the Executive Director of the Westminster Rescue Mission, and she's also my co-chair of the Circle of Caring Homelessness Board. I also have Danielle Yates. She is my Bureau Chief of Housing and Community Connections. Also joining us in the audience today, we have Scott Yard, Executive Director of HSP, Human Services Programs of Carroll County. We have Nicole Jackman, who is the Senior Clinical Director at Springboard Community Services. And we also have Corey Hardinger from our grants office representing our support with our COC NOFA application today. Today we're here to seek approval to submit our 2023 Continuum of Care application and to accept the award. As you know, our Continuum of Care and our Circle of Caring Homelessness Board consists of partners throughout the county, from governmental agencies, faith-based organizations, healthcare providers, nonprofits, providers of homeless services, law enforcement, local business community, and private citizens that are all invested in the common goal of preventing and ending homelessness among veterans, chronically homeless, and for families, youth, and children in our community. We serve on average every year between 500 and 600 homeless individuals in some way, shape, or form with our services here in Carroll County. The mission of our COC is to empower all citizens of Carroll County to be self-sufficient and have stable housing and a safe, healthy life by maximizing community collaboration. The COC NOFA application is a competitive application that provides funding to support our homeless services in the community. Obviously, you folks support homeless services as well with some of the county dollars that are funneled into services. And in a minute, I'm going to have Danielle speak to another source of funding we also receive for homeless services. But this specific NOFA application focuses on a few project areas. One is our coordinated entry, which is administered by HSP, who serves as our countywide gatekeeper for low barrier access to housing, shelter, and supportive services for homeless persons throughout our coordinated entry system. Through coordinated entry, individuals are screened through a needs assessment to determine the services they need and then appropriate referrals made. And that includes waiting lists for our shelter services and other housing programs. Permanent supportive housing is also funded with this, and it allows HSP to continue to provide permanent supportive housing and case management to 32 chronically homeless individuals and family members. 20 housing choice vouchers through our annual housing plan are also designated for move-on strategy for folks that are successful in their permanent supportive housing location and have become more stable in their ability to remain housed, and they can choose to then move on to a more permanent solution through a housing choice voucher. And our Bureau of Housing helps them to do that. So it's kind of a continuum of our housing solution program. And then we also have this year our domestic violence safe house provider, Springboard Community Services, is applying for a bonus project through this NOFA, which was made available to support 2 survivors of domestic violence and their families with temporary rapid rehousing and case management. And again, in this process, we also have 2 housing choice vouchers, which we have designated for that strategy to move those folks on from rapid rehousing into more permanent housing once they reach that stabilization point. So HUD has also offered additional planning funding through the application this year, which we could not project was going to be offered, and I'll speak to why that's important in a minute. And that funding we use for citizen services to administer this grant, which includes monitoring and the fiscal oversight of the grant, and also the planning of the application process, which is very involved and is really a year-long strategy that our COC takes on. I am going to turn it over to Danielle to speak to the other homeless service funding that we receive.
So as Celine said, the COC NOFA only provides support for specific portions of our outreach or homeless solutions programs that we have. The COC NOFA, as she will indicate, supports our permanent supportive housing program, and it also supports coordinated entry, which is how we get data into HMIS, which is our homeless management information system. We also have a grant that we receive, which is called the Homeless Solutions Program Grant, which is supported through DHCD. This is actually a grant we have already previously come to you and received permission to receive. That supports operational dollars for our shelters. It gives us the Rapid Rehousing Program financial assistance and case management. It supports outreach services that we provide. It also provides the Rapid Rehousing Youth financial assistance and case management, and it provides financial assistance for our housing stability case management team as well. This year newly, we have also received funding through our local management board. With that funding, we are able to provide support with our housing stability program as well. We give what's called a housing navigation individual that supports those youth. It also gives us funding for 2 additional individuals to support with the rapid rehousing youth program that we have and that financial assistance we need. The last thing with our local management board is there's a lump sum funding that we received where we were able to buy furniture so we can support those youth when they go into rapid rehousing, because as you know, they are homeless. Many of them have nothing. This just gives us a way to start them off with the basic essentials when they go into their own apartment. And that basically is the funding that we receive for our homeless services. Does anyone have any questions I can answer in regards?
Just a couple quick comments. I mean, Scott, Nicole, and the entire team, I mean, just phenomenal work. I don't know if it's appropriate to say how proud I am that, again, Carroll Countyans know how to take, care of Carroll County. This is a hard mission. And the problem set changes over time. you know. Like Commissioner Kyler shared earlier about drugs, you know, they change over time, which makes it that much more difficult to come up with solutions. And I feel like that happens here as well. One homeless person is not the same as another. And, you know, the environment changes on them, their attitudes, the decisions that he or she makes. But you collectively are always focused on the solution. And so that's why I say, you know, I guess pride, you know, that we have these type of programs like Springboard and HSB and all the other CCYSB. And you can go on. We just do it so well. So your leadership, to me, goes a long ways. And, you know, the workers underneath, you know, carry on because of your leadership collectively. So that's my 2 cents.
And they find solutions that really leverage Carroll County taxpayer money through grants.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So,
Absolutely.
any other conversation? If not, is there a motion?
Can I just walk through the budget very quickly? I do
Oh,
want to
sure.
identify there is a highlight I want to make here with the budget process. Because we have the different projects that we have grant funding, and the grant funding is predetermined by HUD. That's an
Right.
allocation we're provided as far as the application. We don't determine that ourselves. But the existing coordinated entry, the grant is for $32,098, and then the current county match that we have budgeted, we've been budgeting the same match amount for this grant since 2015. But because we have new bonus funds and a new, the planning funding that they've allocated for Carroll County has increased, the match also is increasing. So in 2025's budget process, we will be requesting additional match. And you'll see that in the last column here. The total additional match that we're going to need for the full grant is going to be $20,000, $647. But that's to support that additional money coming in. And the match is noted here. So for the expansion of the permanent supportive housing project, that's requiring an additional $10,000 match in 2025. Currently, we budget $13,166 for the $432,733. And the Springboard Community Service Bonus Project, we are getting a grant of $45,000. There is no match for that project. And then the expansion of the planning grant that gives us the administrative side for citizen services, that'll be an additional $647 in match in FY25. But the total for that is $55,000 for the grant, and then the current match we had was $3,103. So in total, the county match in total of everything is $51,287 that we'll be asking for in 2025. And then the total grant award is $564,831 for all the projects.
It's awesome.
Do these grants stay fairly consistent, or?
They do, and the great thing about the COC funding and the NOFA is once we are awarded this funding, we continue to get that award unless there is some significant performance issue with the funding. We will continue to get that award, and in time, if we see that there's additional performance and they offer additional funding, we can apply for additional funding as it becomes available. But that money, once it comes into our county, will remain ours, as long as we're performing with it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Motion to approve the additional match, approve the submission of the 2023 Continuum of Care application, and accept the award.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's talk about the FY24 CDBG
Thank you.
block grant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have, I'm again, still here with Stephanie Haley, the Executive Director of the Westminster Rescue Mission, and then now we are joined by Debbie Staniford, our Grants Manager with Management and Budget. And we are here before you for kind of a repeat issue that we've visited you with before, and that is the FY24 Community Development Block Grant application for recovery housing for women and children. We're calling this round 2. As you recall, when we came before you before, there was a requirement that we purchase, or we have a property identified, and that the neighbors were engaged in the process, and we have a public hearing, and we open that up and really get buy-in from the neighborhood. And that was something that we felt, and Stephanie felt, was not happening at that particular location. The process has changed under CDBG in the way that they are administering this grant funding, and so I'm going to have Debbie speak to how that looks now and why we feel that we will be successful this time around in this application process, and then Stephanie can speak to her plans for this as well. So Debbie, I'll start with you to explain the difference here.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So this second round of funding allows us to apply for a property to be determined. So we do not, within that 4-week period, have to find a property, get under contract, outreach to all the neighbors, and hold the public hearing. So we will have a year to identify a property, do the outreach, and purchase the property. This is the pre-approval to develop and to hold the first public hearing that is required by the grant. So we will be back before you in October. And then once the property is, if we are awarded in that year, once the property is identified, we will come back before you for a second public hearing about the specific property that we have found. So I'll turn it over to Stephanie for any questions or details that she wants to share.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions. I promised I would be back and that we would get this done, and so hopefully this is the time that we do that. One of the things that I will say is that, should we receive this funding, what we are going to be prepared with and will be actually a part of our application is our plan for neighbor outreach. So you will see very specifically how we would do that, when we would do that. And we did have that incredibly tight timeline before. This will give us a little more breathing room to be able to do that kind of outreach. And hopefully we will not have, hopefully everyone will welcome us with open arms, but if not, we'll have our work to do because this is an important issue, as you all know.
And what you're saying is the order has changed, the requirements have changed, but you're still very much want community buy-in to make this work.
Yes.
That hasn't changed.
We do want community buy-in, and and the grantor also wants community
Yes.
buy-in,
Yes.
absolutely. And so that's incredibly important. And that's not to say if somebody says, I'm not sure about that we won't have a good bit of conversation. We know it's a difficult issue, but this is an important issue.
Yes.
It's unfortunate
Needed.
that you're back,
It is. I
but
know.
I'm appreciative that you are.
Yes. Thank you.
So we want to get across the goal line on this one.
We do. I
And
appreciate that.
I appreciate that because I think that we is collectively from us up
Yes.
here to you. So any discussion on this? If not,
Motion to approve the development of the FY24 CDBG application and schedule the required public hearing.
Second.
I got a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much,
very
ladies.
much.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we are going to bypass item 9 for a later date. And we're going to go into a briefing on the Environmental Advisory Council completed work plan items.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
So we are here to discuss and brief you, update you on some work plan items from the Environmental Advisory Committee. With me today is Brenda Denny, our Special Projects Coordinator, and Craig Puskowski, who is our Chair of the EAC. So they will lead you through discussion of these items.
Okay.
Good morning to you both.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'm going to turn it right over to Craig because Chris always says what I was going to say. So.
Go ahead, Craig. Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. It's,
And as part of introducing you, can you just, if anybody's watching, and plus for us, how long have you been in this position? And, yeah, I know.
in this position.
Hard questions.
As chairman, just a year, actually. I
Yes.
started in January. And when we met in January to go over,
Yes.
you know, the work plan for 2023, that was my first year. Frank.
But
Black
you've
had
been on the committee.
I had been, yeah, I served as vice chair for a couple of years.
Yes.
And
Thanks.
a few years before that as just a member.
This is Craig's second term.
Awesome. Well, thank you for serving.
Yes.
My pleasure. So when we met in January, we discussed our plans for the year and our projects. And two of the main projects that we were going to do is updating the county's environmental stewardship booklet, right, which I think you all were given a.
We were? Yep.
And the second item was the outreach brochure on invasive species. Right. So both of these projects have been completed, and I'm here today to kind of go over briefly, you know, what they are and answer any questions if you have it. So every other year, the EAC updates this environmental stewardship booklet, and it's a thorough overview of the county's ongoing efforts to protect and conserve our natural resources. Ms. Brenda here did a masterful job of reworking it graphically and making it very appealing. Somehow she managed to put more information in this and cut it down 4 pages from 24 to 20. So of course it outlines, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to, you know, thumb through it at all. So I'll just highlight a few things. It outlines the board's environmental principles, and it emphasizes really the county's holistic approach to environmental stewardship, and incorporating those principles in the master plan, as well as codes and programs. So it's a nice breakdown of the county's efforts at such things as land conservation, ag preservation, protecting water quality, soil conservation, and natural resources. It highlights such things as, for soil conservation, the best management program, best management practices program, in which there's 130 conservation projects that the Carroll County farmers have initiated, right, to control soil erosion and improve water quality. It outlines the county's preservation of open spaces through its robust park programs. Right. The county has some strong environmental codes that are also highlighted in the book. Those codes affect forest conservation, water resource management, and stormwater management. And stormwater management is a big issue and a big thing that the county is trying to tackle with, which includes like restoring 2,300 acres of impervious surface and efforts to retrofit many of the stormwater retention areas, management facilities. Right. The booklet also highlights the municipal separate storm sewer system permit, which you might be familiar with, that MS4 kind of explains that, and the ways that the county tries to reach out to residents so that they can participate and do their share with that. It notes the county's silver designation and the Solar Smart program, which makes it easy for county residents to install solar. Just briefly, some of the other topics and highlights in the booklet include the Stream Buffer Initiative, replacing old septic units with best available technology, renewable energy, solid waste and recycling, touches on the Monocacy River Board, and other environmental awards and recognitions, and many of the partnerships that the county participates in to address some of the issues. Page 2. So a lot of what this is too is updating numbers, as well as some trimming here and additions there. For instance, the county has a goal of putting 100,000 acres into the agricultural land preservation program. So that number grew, and it's up to close to 78,000 acres this year. So as a public outreach piece, this environmental stewardship booklet, it's posted online. It's distributed via emails and links. It's available at public schools and the libraries. And it's also provided to the county, the state legislatures from the county, so that they can use it if pieces of legislation come through that affect them, that's going to affect the county environmental ways. Is there any other avenues that this gets disseminated?
We have an extensive distribution list. Some of it's in hard copies, some of it's like a link to our post online. As Craig mentioned, we send copies to the delegation each time that we update it, and so that they can use it as a resource. And so when this was first done in 2014, at that time the board requested it be done because sometimes Carroll County had an image from outsiders that we weren't doing as much as we really were doing, and this was a great way to show all the great things that we really are doing to promote environmental stewardship. And while many of the things in there are required in mandates, you know, we do them well, and maybe better than some others when you compare them on certain things. So, you know, this is a great resource, and it really helps to show people what we're doing, as well as, like I said, it's great for the delegation to use it when certain legislation might be proposed. So that's, you know, the main impetus why it was done and why we keep updating it. But it's an important resource piece for other outside groups besides just, you know, us. And so it's distributed, like I said, through all the county departments. Craig mentioned the library, the school system, the delegation, the towns, certain businesses. So we cover as much as we could have thought of.
I think sharing it with the delegation is great. I think sharing it with the delegation maybe twice during their time, like once before they go into session, and then once when they're a month or so in session. Because like anything else, it becomes very difficult to comprehend and grab onto information as information gets flooded into them as well as it does to us. So just because it's said once doesn't mean it's delivered the way you want it to be delivered. The other is the federal delegation. You know, they have very strong outreach, and they're very proud of their outreach into Carroll County. We've become very close with them, you know, from Senator Carter and Van Hollen's office to Congressman Ruppersberger and who else? Ruppersberger, is there another?
I think he's
Is he the only one?
Represents Carroll now.
I don't know. Okay.
Whether
But he has, you know, again, outreach, and they're always asking what else is Carroll County doing, so let's, you know, share this great news. You know, this is really good stuff, so thanks.
We'd be happy to add them to our list.
All I can do is offer compliments about this. I mean, these are beautifully done. They are visually appealing. They provide adequate information, and you can, I mean, just looking at this, you can tell the amount of work that goes into this, and so I can't thank you enough for that.
Yep.
Good job. Very good job.
Yeah, I think when you read it, you really, and you read through the whole thing, one, there's certain themes that go through it, is protecting water quality, protecting open spaces and ag land, and you see that through each of the, you know, programs and codes and all this. It's those themes, and also the just when you read through it, it kind of strikes you as just how much is involved in protecting the environment and how much we do.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like, wow.
I like the way it's broken down, where it's not a dissertation, but you're breaking it down into a few paragraphs, and you can move on to another topic, you can go back to something. So really well thought out, laid out, products. So, thanks.
Thank you. And speaking of breaking it down, you should have also gotten the quick reference, because there is a lot of information there, so we tried to pull out some key information and just put it in a short version as well.
Yep.
That's also will be posted online.
I met a woman yesterday at the expo, senior expo. She was in charge of the land or the ag preservation in 1984, I think, here. I can't remember her name.
Marlene Conway?
Who?
Marlene Conway?
Maybe ask Chris Weinbrenner. I was sitting with Chris, and she came over, and we talked, and she said she was like from 1984. I was like, wow. I said, we've come a long ways, and I kind of gave her an update, and she was very appreciative. But, having a goal, such a lofty goal that's now 43 years old, and we're moving in the right direction, she was very obviously proud to be a Carroll Countyan. Yeah. So it may have been her, but Chris, I'll put it on her to tell you if it's true or not. So any other information or comments or
Thank you very much
discussion?
to you and all and the entire committee, council. Appreciate it very much.
Before we leave, two quick plugs. One is that if all of you are on Facebook, you may be aware we have a Carroll Environment Facebook page, and we just surpassed 500 followers on that. So this information will be conveyed that way. If you're not, then hopefully you join and keep bumping those follower numbers.
I'm one of them. I know that. So.
Excellent. Good. And
I just followed it.
Perfect. We're up to 502 then. The other thing to note is we will have the second annual Environmental Symposium coming up in October. The date just went right out of my head.
October 28th.
28th. There we go. That will be at the Ag Center. It's a Saturday from 9 till 12. And the purpose of that symposium is to bring together community groups that all do community outreach and work with citizens to do things like stream cleanups and pick up trash and things like that. And we also have, I believe, the Army Corps of Engineers is coming out to join us, and various other environmental groups. Hand in hand with that, we have a competition for high school students. It's a recycled art competition, and we're looking forward to seeing what kind of exhibits we have there. But we will certainly bring more information to you as we get closer to the event. So, I'm very remiss in not mentioning.
Should I?
We'll come back to the invasive species, but he's going to finish that plug.
Okay. So one of the other things that we're not, the invasive species thing we also sent to you.
Right.
But other thing that's left on our to-do list, this year is the Environmental Action Awards, which we also do every other year. Right. And the deadline for submitting applications or nominations for that is the end of this month, so there's still time available. We have three categories that those are in: positive practices, student engagement, and educational outreach. So this year we're going to be presenting those awards at this environmental symposium. Right. We have in the past done it related to Earth Day. Yeah. Right. When the weather's kind of hit and miss. Right.
Yeah, we used to do it by the lake.
Yes.
One very windy day was not a fun one.
Yes.
So yes.
Either cold or windy or both.
The windy one was pretty comical. So yeah.
So, after we get the applications in and that closes, we'll decide on some winners. The board will vote on that, and we'll make that presentation at the symposium. This is also, which is now, last year it was at the community college. This year it's going to be at the Ag Center. Right. We figure we had a good turnout last year. Expect a little more this year. Also, maybe be a wider audience for the presentation of the awards.
And there's
And I want to note
there's
that
money associated. There's scholarship money associated.
that's what I was just going to say. The student category has a really great award, so we need nominations.
Right.
There's a $1,000 scholarship for the winner, which was donated by a local business, and a $500 scholarship for the second place, also donated by a local business. And the first one is Spot On Engineering, donating the $1,000, and Atlantic Blue Water is
Right.
donating the 500. So that's a great opportunity for students to, submit something and possibly get that.
And they've been doing that for a
award.
while, so we're very proud of partnership with both.
Yes.
They've been,
So we're hoping to get some of the student nominations in that the
Yep.
school system really just started again last week or
Right.
so. Once they get up and running,
Right.
they can
okay.
they get something in.
What else?
So I'll go back then to the invasive plants and noxious weeds. Just a little quick public outreach piece that we did. Let's see, it talks about why it's important to address this issue. It's a growing issue, and how residents can recognize invasives and help control them, control the spread of invasives and noxious weeds that push out native plants, change the biodiversity of ecosystems here, and they certainly have a dramatic impact on farming and agriculture. Expensive. They clog waterways, and they change the chemical composition of soils. Right. So I included just a few examples here. Obviously, we can't, space limitations, but it's really about calling awareness to it, and certainly there's additional resources that people can link to if they have particular questions and problems with particular plants and stuff. And it's targeted to residents and homeowners, but if you think about it, it really they have a tremendous impact on farming, since this county is so reliant and still has a lot of wonderful farms and houses, and residents live right next to those farms. It's really important for residents to try to keep these things in check before they spread. So that's also going to be available at the libraries and online, and links. And when we're at the symposium at the end of the month, we'll have a table spread out with the booklets and some of the other projects that we've done in the past, like the litterless guide and such.
And when and where is that again, the symposium? When and where is that?
October 28th at the Ag Center.
From 9 to 12.
We generally like to have any commissioners who are available and can make it help the Environmental Advisory Council to present those awards, because it is something we want to make sure that those people who get the awards are well recognized.
Absolutely.
Well, didn't the, I think the winners for the creating the projects from recycled products, they were displayed downstairs.
Yes, last year
in the foyer.
we had a couple of you may remember from when you first started the giant cardboard night. That was one of the winners of the of last year's competition, and to bring more marketing awareness to the program and so on, and the efforts that the students put into the work. We displayed a couple of those for a month or so.
Regarding the scholarships, where can that information be found online for any students that are interested in that?
It's on the Environmental Advisory Council website, which is carrollcountymd.gov/EAC. Very simple.
Okay.
And then you just go to the awards tab on that page.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, discussion, questions?
I just thank you again. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks.
having us and letting us update you, and hopefully we'll see you in January.
Possibly in
Sounds good.
October.
In October?
October.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Very good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Okay, Chris, is there anyone on the line?
No, sir.
Chris?
I think he said no.
He said no.
Okay. Any public open admin comments we want to make?
Yeah, I'd like to make one more brief comment. Early on in the meeting, I talked about the 4 guys up here I'm working with, but I just want to say again, hopefully, not for the first time, the staff, the people in this building, the sheriff and the state's attorneys and the libraries, et cetera, the people not in this building. It's such a hardworking group of people, and they're the ones that get the things done. We sit here and look at stuff and hopefully help with problems, not cause them, but they're the ones that are doing all the work, and I just don't think we can tell them enough that we appreciate them.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I mean,
It goes a long way.
she-
That goes a long way.
Senior Expo is a great example.
Yes.
You know, not just the leadership that put it together, but the public works that was out there.
Yep.
You know, with traffic, the sheriff's department that was out there supporting, the health department that was out there supporting. It was a true team effort. And, you know, same thing with our 9/11 ceremony. All those engaged and involved. So I definitely agree. And if I, you know, could have a magic wand and, you know, double everybody's dollars and everything, we would, but we're not there quite yet. Me having that magic wand, maybe. But, so you're right. Thank you goes a long ways, and I agree. Any other open admin comments? Roberta, do you have anything? Tim, anything for the good of the group? Okay, and I made a mistake. I did say we're going into close. We're not going into close. I need approval from our closed session on September 7th, where we were enclosed for land acquisition. So please take a look. And need a motion and second to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second to approve the land acquisition minutes from enclosed in September 7th. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Wanda, why don't you come on up? Let's talk about
Hello, Wanda.
Good morning.
Monday, September 18th. We have nothing scheduled. Tuesday, September 19th, I will be enjoying listening to Commissioner Kyler's comments as he shares to the Chamber of Commerce breakfast.
I think Commissioner Vigliotti is currently writing me some good comments to
I
make.
don't think you'll be able to pronounce the words he writes. So
Yeah, you're
go-
true. Maybe
go,
I can't
go
even
for
read
it.
I'll do
well.
hooked on phonics. I'll break them down into the syllables.
Oh, my.
That may be a little age discrimination. I don't know. And then Planning and Zoning Commission, Commissioner Gordon will be participating, and then Veterans Advisory Meeting that afternoon with Commissioner Gordon and Kyler attending. On Wednesday, September 20th, the Carroll Community College Board of Trustees meeting, Commissioner Kyler at 5 p.m.
You're going to have to let me know if they miss me.
No, I've got it covered, but thank you.
The ESAC, the
Mr. Gordon have both covered me.
Emergency Service Advisory Council meeting at 7 p.m. Commissioner Guerin will be attending. Excuse me, on Thursday, September 21st, we go into open session. Let's just say 9-ish, but scheduled for 9 a.m. We will have Farm Museum. Is this, what is this? Farm Museum? Is it an update or?
It's about the maintenance building, the outfit of the maintenance building.
Oh, that's what that is? Okay. So we'll have a,
Commissioner Gordon, I
Yes.
think did you skip out, did he read that, or was I
What's that?
spacing? That you were going to attend the Heart of
No,
the...
we skipped that, but
oh, I apologize. Oh, I didn't see it up there.
Yeah.
At 8:50 that morning, Heart of Civil War Heritage Tour, Carroll County up in Westminster, here in Westminster. Commissioner Gordon will be attending. Thanks.
So you will not be in open session?
I'll be here briefly at the very beginning.
The, okay, so the Farm Museum is in reference to the maintenance building facility. Discussion, possible decision made there. Then grant approval to submit the FY25 Child Support Administration Cooperative Reimbursement Agreement, and then accept the award, and that's from Judge Hecker over at the Circuit Court. Grant approval to submit application acceptance of the FY24 Violence Against Women Act. grant, and that will be from our state's attorney's office. Excuse me. Grant approval to submit application acceptance of award FY24 child support enforcement agreement from our sheriff's department. Grant approval and matching funds for FY24 overtime grants from our sheriff's department. And contract award on-site PFAS testing at the Public Safety Training Center, and that'll be done by our Land Resource Management and team, along with DPW. Discussion of 2 legislative initiatives by Ms. Hobbs, by our comptroller's office.
Yeah.
What are the initiatives?
The change of the procurement limit, and then the other one about the permits and personal property tax.
Okay, so, yeah, let's just put it on there,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people will have it on the notes, okay. And then on nothing, I guess, on Friday or Saturday. Oh, I apologize, Friday, nothing, Saturday, there's a ribbon cutting. Commissioner Kyler will be attending the Maryland Print House Business Parkway,
I'll be at that also, Wanda.
along with
Academy.
Commissioner Gordon. And then Commissioner Kyler has the podcast at 6 p.m. on the 24th. There's a Gold Star Family Day, Bridging Life, over to Bridging Life Hospice, Westminster. Commissioner Gordon will be attending. 6 p.m. as well, the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company Appreciation Dinner at the Reception Hall in Mount Airy. Commissioner Guerin will be attending. Monday, 25th, nothing scheduled. The 26th, I will be participating in the Governor's Workforce Development Board quarterly meeting. I'll be doing that virtually. Nothing scheduled on Wednesday, 27th, 28th. We go into open. And briefing, discussion, decision, approval to participate in the state program, on MALF, Land Preservation Program. And there's a whole list of them. William Cosden, Robin Cosden property, Benjamin and Gladys Rock property, William and Kurt Sheely property, Richard Lila Weaver, Lila property, Stanley Pennington property, Nicholas Brittany Osborne property, Brandon and Katie Hochheiser property, Alyssa Jacobson property. Let's see, clarification to definition of Chapter 158 regarding drug treatment facilities.
It's a public hearing.
Public hearing, thank you.
Yep.
Sure.
Until really interrupted by a sneeze. No, I'm kidding. Westminster area sidewalk improvements will be discussed. Is that part of the safe, what's the state program?
Safe
fund?
Routes to
Safe
School?
Routes to School, is that part of that?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I'm sorry. I'm
No.
not that actually aware of that.
Be curious if it is. Could be. Okay, and then at 5:30 p.m., we have Carroll County Realtors installation of officers and directors. Commissioner Kyler will be attending at the Bowling Brook Mansion in Kemar. Nothing scheduled for Friday or Saturday, and Commissioner Gordon has the podcast. How'd I do, Wanda? Okay, any other, excuse me, comments, discussions? I need a motion to, not close, to adjourn, that's the word. I haven't done it in a while.
Motion to
We haven't adjourned like from open in quite some time.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to adjourn for the day. All in favor?
Aye.